Jennifer here from Stone Studio. This is our second video in our 3-part beginner basics series, and we are going to focus on throwing a simple cylinder. So we've already wedged our clay, we've prepared it, we've coned it, domed it, centered it, and now we're ready to actually dive into making a simple form. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the center of our clay and we're going to drill a hole down. Now the most important thing to remember is when you're drilling your hole, don't go too deep. We want to try and leave just over 1 centimeter of clay at the bottom because that's what's going to form the floor of our cylinder. So be really mindful of that. If you go too far, it's quite difficult to make it thicker again, so just be a bit conservative when you're doing the drilling. All right, so to drill the hole, my left hand is just going to be cupping the clay on the left hand side. My right hand is going to be in this L position, my thumb resting on my left hand. You always want your 2 hands connected to help keep you nice and steady. My middle finger on my right hand is going to be doing the work. So I'm starting over here at about 3 o'clock. And I'm slowly gliding along, no pressure at all. I'm just slowly gliding until I find the center of the clay. Now my wheel is still going nice and quick. Once you feel like you are in the center, you're going to start to press down. If it starts to get a bit dry and you need a little bit of more water, that's fine. So I'm slowly pressing down and drilling my hole. My finger's kind of on a 45-degree angle, and I'm drilling down. Now I'm going to slowly take my hands out. I'm going to collect any water from the hole, and I'm actually going to stop my wheel, and I'm going to check how thick my base is. So I'm going to take my needle tool, poke a little hole right in the bottom. I'm going to slide my finger in until it hits the clay and pull these both out together. So we want that to be just over 1 centimeter, which is looking about right. Now, once we've drilled our hole down, the next step is to open the clay wide. So I'm still having my wheel spin nice and quickly. My left hand is still cupping the clay. My right hand is in this L position with my thumb resting on my left hand. My middle finger is going to slide down into the hole. Gonna almost hook that top part of my finger and pull all that clay towards my belly button. So I'm gonna slide my finger in, hook the top part of my finger, and very slowly I'm pulling. I'm being very careful not to press any downward pressure because I don't want to thin my base. I've got that nice 1 centimeter base. I want to keep that. And I'm also being careful not to open the clay too wide. You've already decided how wide your vessel is going to be, so you don't want to keep pulling it. If you keep pulling it, those walls are just going to collapse. So now I've opened up my little lump of clay. The next step is to compress the floor of your cylinder. If you skip this step, it's really likely that you'll probably get some cracks on the bottom of your vessel. All right, so to do the compressing, my hands are in the same position. I'm going to start with my middle finger over at 3 o'clock. I'm going to apply some downward pressure and I'm going to move into the center. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that at least 3 times. Wouldn't hurt to do it even more than 3 times. And I'm just wiggling my finger back from 3 o'clock into the center, back towards 3 o'clock with some downward pressure. Not so much pressure that you're thinning the base, but enough pressure that you're actually compressing the clay particles. And your fingers should be moving very slowly, just slowly from the outside to the inside. Now, once you've done that a few times, I like to take my sponge and get my sponge in there, really just to make the floor of the vessel nice and smooth. You can also compress your rim at this point to make sure your rim is nice and strong and to get rid of any sludge or slurry. All right, so we've drilled our hole, we've opened up wide, we've compressed our base, and now the very last step is we're going to get some height. So this is called a pull, and we're going to simultaneously be thinning the wall and gaining height. So how we do a pull is I've got my butterfly fingers. I use my 2 middle fingers, which are doing the work, on either side of the wall at 5 o'clock. So you've got your inside finger and your outside finger. Now I like to get my thumb in there as well. So you've actually got 2 fingers on the outside of the vessel and 1 finger on the inside. Notice how my hands are completely connected. They're acting as one. They are moving up as one. We're also going to slow the speed down a little bit now. Instead of medium high, we're just at medium. You don't want to be going snail's pace. You don't want to be going full speed. You want that nice medium wheel speed. We're going to start at the base and we're going to apply even pressure until you start to get this little ridge. That is the clay starting to move up. I'm then going to maintain that pressure, and I'm very slowly going to move my hands up the wall. Now it's really important that you move your hands slowly. The wheel needs to complete at least 1 entire rotation before you start to move your hands. Compress your rim after your first pull and collect any water that's sitting in the bottom of the vessel. So that was my first pull. Notice I just got a little bit of height. I just brought up a little bit of clay. We want to do this part gradually. Now I'm going to go in for my second pull. Now the hardest thing about a pull is getting all of this clay at the base to move up. So with my second pull, I'm going to apply quite a bit of pressure down at the bottom to really get all that bottom clay to start to move up. It's easy to thin the top part of your wall, but difficult to get the clay at the bottom up. So I'm going to quite a bit of pressure at the bottom until you really get that ridge and really feel the clay start to move. I'm going to maintain pressure, and I'm very slowly going to move my fingers up. Medium wheel speed, slow and steady, all the way through the rim. And then pinch and compress your rim. I'm going to take a pause. I'm just going to feel the thickness of my wall. I can feel that I've still got some clay down at the base that I need to get up, and the rest of my wall is feeling pretty even, but still a little bit thick. So I'm going to go in for a third pull. So start at the bottom, really push all of that clay that's at the bottom in. Once you get that ridge, you're going to maintain pressure and slowly move your hands. Get your thumb in there as soon as you can. And I'm slowly moving straight up the wall. Notice my elbow is planted, slowly coming off, compressing the rim. All right, let's have a little feel. That feels pretty good to me, pretty nice and even. I'll do one more little push at the bottom. Get my hand in here, make sure that there's no water collecting at the bottom because that can cause cracks. Use my sponge just to tidy up my rim. I'm going to take my little wooden knife and I'm going to cut off this excess clay. And I'm going to scrape it off the wheel. One more cut just to get this little lump off. Get that last bit of water out of there. And the very last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my wooden rib and I'm just going to smooth the edge of my cylinder. I'm just gently pressing from the inside out into my wooden rib just to get rid of any slip, straighten up those sides. And tidy up that rim. All right, so now that we've thrown our cylinder, we need to get it off the wheel. So to do that, I'm going to take a sponge. I am going to squeeze a little bit of water on the top part of my wheel head. I'm going to take my wire tool, wrap it around my fingers, get my thumbs in there, hold the wire so it's nice and flat. And I'm going to start at the very top of my wheel, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to pull this water underneath the cylinder. So I'm going to come kind of medium speed and slice the cylinder. Now you actually want it to start to slide a little bit. I'm going to pull my wire out. Now I've got a board here, a wooden bat. I'm going to make the board wet. This is a very important step. I'm going to rotate the wheel just with my hands, nice and slowly. And now I'm going to slide the cylinder using the back of my hand onto the wet board. If you don't make the board wet, the cylinder is going to hit the dry board and get stuck. So really important to make it wet and just nice and steady and easy, because it's floating on some water. So if you do any sudden movements, it's just going to fly right off the board. So just nice and steady, put it down. And then you can clean up and you've just finished throwing your first cylinder. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or send us a DM. You can also swing through the studio anytime. Our address is on the website. And happy throwing.